There are many ways to listen to music these days. Physical media is making a comeback, and of course, streaming services, music streaming services, is the now and the near future. But let me share with you how I listen to music and something I've always known but didn't really think much about it until recently. So, first, here are some of the old physical formats, the LP, vinyl, as people refer to as. I only have a couple of these. I actually do not have a record player. This Appetite for Destruction one is actually unopened, so I just use it for display. It's actually the band cover version, so it's pretty nice to collect and have around. Maybe it'll be worth something one day. And then, of course, cassettes. I grew up on cassettes, and my dad always told me that, hey, in order to preserve the cassettes, because they do degrade over time, record it onto a blank tape, and that way you preserve the original copy. And so I have tons of blank tapes as well. Some, I collect cassettes, so even the blank ones. The thing with cassettes is tape hiss. So in now, as I'm getting older, it doesn't bother me as much, and I don't really hear it unless I put my ears next to the speakers. So it's not an issue for me at all. But also, if you get a cassette player like the Pioneer digital noise reduction one, it's near CD quality, so it sounds really good if you have one of these cassette decks. Then came the CDs. CD is a digital format, so theoretically it should last you forever. I actually ripped them into FLAC files and put them on my home media server to listen to throughout the house. If you're a music fan like me, you probably bought the same album on CD to replace your cassette listening. And like all physical formats, there's something to hold and touch, and it's tangible, and it's always fun to take the cassette or the CD or the vinyl out and put it into a player to play. I know that's one of the biggest draws and why people gravitate towards physical formats is you can go through your albums, decide on which one to listen to by looking at it, touching it, and then taking it out, and then putting it into a player and hitting play. That part of the music experience gets lost in the streaming world. So another great part of physical format is the inserts, whether it's on cassettes, although a little bit smaller print, or in CD. You get these nice inserts that you can take out while you're listening to your music. Some of the inserts are even like poster size. Just great. I always hate it when there's only like one sheet. I always feel like the record company is cheating us and taking the easy way out. But most of the albums will contain a pretty nice insert with all the lyrics and some extra pictures, and maybe even some interesting stories that the artists would like you to know about the album. In the early days of CD production, um, some of the double albums like this one from Queen, The Greatest Hits 1 and 2, came in this packaging that takes up a lot of room. Yes, there's a nice booklet in there, but it's really thicker than it needs to be. They've slimmed it down later on, but for display purposes, it's actually quite nice to have something that you can display. So now about another difference between the different media format is that for an album like this one, Extreme's Three Sides to Every Story, there's a song on the cassette and LP version, Don't Leave Me Alone, that's not available on the CD or the streaming service. A cassette can hold 90 minutes of music, but a CD can only hold 74, so you can see why they omitted that song. The only other choice would have been if they wanted to release a double CD version of the album, but I can't understand, well, I don't know why, that it's not on the streaming service, because there is no time limit. So if I wanted to listen to that song, my only option is to listen to it on the cassette. And, this probably happens more often than you like to think. A lot of times, depending on also the country of the release, some CD versions or cassette versions might contain an extra song, a bonus track, while others are not available for a certain region. And then, of course, due to the length issues, like Pink Floyd's Pulse album, one of these days is available on the cassette and LP, but not on the CD version. I used to have this album on CD, but luckily for me, it is available on the streaming service. So I have another example of Great White's Stage live album that I have the CD version, at least the US CD version, because it's released on one CD. It doesn't have two songs that are released in the Japan version, which come as a double CD album. But on the streaming service, it's there. So that's pretty cool that they put those on the streaming service. And, other than the convenience factor of having a music streaming service, now that, especially that most music services other than Spotify, you can listen to all the music on high-res FLAC versions. That's another reason why I have a streaming service. I use a streaming service to listen to my music, even though I have most of the stuff I wanted to listen to on cassettes or CD. And then, with Garth Brooks here, his music is only available on Amazon Music, so if you wanted to listen to his stuff, you either have to subscribe to Amazon Music or buy the physical disc or cassette versions or LP of his albums. So with so many choices and different media formats to pick from, which one do you listen to something if you have it in cassette, CD, or it's available on a music streaming service? Decisions, decisions, decisions.